Hello and welcome to Focus on Israel, which looks at the Holy Land. I'm Paul Calvert. Psalm 95 verse 1 from the New King James Bible says this, "O come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us shout joyfully to the rock of our salvation."
I'm with Amber Sutter, International Development Director for Christian Friends of Israel, Germany. Now, Amber, what does your work involve?
Okay, that is a big question. It involves, there's two aspects to my work. On the one hand, I'm International Development Manager and for the international office in Jerusalem. And then also I'm the director for the German office. So I'm the German representative of CFI. And obviously those two jobs will have different tasks. As in my role as CFI Germany representative, our main focus is to really translate the information that we get from Jerusalem. So the project updates, the teaching articles, and anything in that direction. We take that, we translate it, and we distribute it among our readers. And we have about 3,000 people who receive the magazine. And then we also have Facebook friends. And we post it and we spread it. And then we collect donations and send those on to Israel. And then also what we do is we try to reach out to churches and see if they would like to have us come, just share about Israel, share about the ministry. And that has slowly been starting to move forward. My children are grown now, so we have more time to do some traveling. And so the last year we've been working on reaching out to churches and doing that. That basically covers the CFI German side, a side of trying to be at conferences and just showing presence and having book tables and just being part of the whole pro-Israel Christian network that's here in Germany.
How long has there been a CFI in Germany?
In Germany, it was founded in 1995 by a man named Harald Eckert, and he's still very active for Israel, pro-Israel. But my husband and me took over the office, or took over the leadership from him when he moved on to a different ministry in 2006.
Well, do you get a chance to travel all over Germany?
I do, depending on the invitations that we get. But yeah, I mean, Germany is not so huge that it's still quite possible to travel by car. Mainly, we're focusing on the southern half of Germany at the moment. But yeah, I've had many opportunities to travel around, even up to Berlin, to the main city, several opportunities to do that.
And are you able to connect and visit other CFI offices in Europe as well?
Yes, in fact. Last fall, we had a big Europe conference, and we invited all of the European offices. And I think that maybe all except for maybe one or two that weren't able to make it, they came. So we had Italy, we had France, we had Switzerland, we had Belgium, we had the UK, we had Germany, and we had one more, Netherlands. So we had all of them come together. And I haven't actually seen all of those offices, but most of them. We try to visit each other. We try to have a relationship. And obviously, as International Development Director, that's part of my job now also. Above and beyond what happens in Germany is to go into and connect with these other countries and then also try to recruit new directors in other countries.
Well, how is the church in Germany when it comes to Israel?
Well, I think that a lot has happened in the last decades. We see that many pro-Israel ministries came to life within the last decades, and it kind of reflects itself a little bit in the church. But the church is still, I think for many, Israel is kind of like a side topic. They see that it is, I don't think that they realize how central of a topic it is. It's more of one of the side topics, one of the topics that we can deal with as a church, rather than really seeing it as, well, we are actually grafted into this olive tree, and this is what we need to learn and study and understand, and that they're supporting us, right? But we need to then also stand with Israel and give them our support. So I think that there have been shifts, but there's still a lot of work to do. I think there's just not enough knowledge about it.
Is there a lot of replacement theology in the German church?
I think it depends on what church you look at. Like, for example, if you go to some of the more traditional churches, the Lutheran, maybe the Catholic Church. I couldn't give you an exact answer to that, but it seems to be that there's more replacement theology in those churches, but also in evangelical and free churches. That's what they call them here, is the Freikirche, free church. I think that replacement theology basically is an underlying sediment on the foundation of our church that we all kind of deal with. And the more we spend time studying into the whole topic of Israel, the more it's revealed and the more we discover of this theory that needs to be just swept out and taken care of.
Are there many Jews in Germany, and do you have a good relationship with the Jewish community near where you are?
Well, that's actually an interesting question, because right where we live, we're in the very southeastern part of Germany, and I do not know of a single Jew that lives in my area. Maybe I just don't know them, or I haven't been able to meet them or anything. But the closest Jewish community would be in Munich, which is an hour and a half away about. And then we do have good relationships with Messianic Jews who have like Vladimir Pickman. I don't know if that's a name that you recognize. He's the head of the largest Messianic Jewish movement here in Germany, and he heads up a congregation in Berlin. And we have a very good relationship. So with the Jews that I do know and I do have contact with, then we do have a very good relationship, which is nice.
Has there been many protests on the streets of Germany, the anti-Israel protesters?
I'd have to go to the media to answer that, because I believe that in Hamburg and in Berlin and in some of the larger cities, maybe even in Munich, there have been protests, but I'm afraid I'm not completely informed on the updated status of that. I live in a very rural area, so we haven't seen any of those protests directly here in our small town. There might be small pockets of things like this kind of going around, but nothing that I have personally witnessed in my area. So we do see some of those things in the news, though, yeah.
Yeah. Has the work been harder since October the 7th, or has it actually opened up more doors of opportunity?
For me personally, it's opened up more doors of opportunity. I think just because it became a topic and I was able to talk to a few people about it that I hadn't had conversations with before. One thing that I found was very sad, though, was that my children were in school, in the gymnasium, which is actually a very high level of school, and it seems like they hardly spoke about it at all. I think that the teachers are just very confused and don't really know where to go, where to start. I did send some information to the school. I never heard back from them. It's almost like people are scared and weary of even trying to approach the subject. But we do hear from neighbors and friends that there is generally quite an anti-Trump attitude here, which then kind of reflects on Israel as well. And it's just it's very sad to me, because the media is often just very, very one-sided, and they don't report to give people information so that they're able to make their own opinion, but they actually try to create opinion with what they report. And that to me is just not good journalism at all. And I think that's a big problem that we have in our media. And then also with social media and algorithms and all those, that's a whole big problem. And that's kind of what I'm trying to make people aware of, is to just give them a different view on things, to try to point out the other side to them. And I think that's an important thing to do. And yet sometimes we feel very limited in what we're able to actually achieve. But I feel it is just important to stand our ground.
Yeah.
I feel like I had a little revelation on that. It's like God did not call us to defeat the enemy. He called us to stand our ground and to just stand for the truth.
Well, now I just read in All Israel News that Germany is proposing a bill which seeks to criminalize denial of Israel's right to exist. How important is that?
Well, that would be amazing. I think, well, I'm not that, into the whole political details. I mean, I do get a lot of the information and all that, but I think that would be an important step. For Germans, it's all about bills and bureaucracy and, having everything in boxes, and because then they feel that they can move forward. Very different than Americans, I feel, just from my general feeling. Germans will believe what they have been told is the correct thing to believe. They don't want to believe the wrong thing. They're very weary of that. They from their past, they've experienced what it means to be abused by propaganda and whatever. And I feel that for those who are originally German, they have that in their background. We've been going through the Third Reich and Hitler and all that stuff in our schools. We kind of have that. The problem lies with all the people that have come in since then. And they're the ones on the streets. And then obviously some of those from the left will come and join. But I think a political move like this, putting out a bill like this, I think is definitely a step in the right direction.
Do Germans feel ashamed of what happened today? Feel ashamed today of what happened during the Second World War and the Holocaust? Do the younger generation feel ashamed of that today?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I think generally they think, well, we didn't have anything to do with that. Yeah. It wasn't us who did it. And I think there has been so much condemnation that has been put on us by ourselves in Germany. How could that have happened? And that can never happen again. And so German kids, at least in our area, in our schooling, they know what happened and that it was bad. But then I think a lot of people feel like they're living under this weight of what happened and under this bad name, and they kind of want to break free from it. So I don't know if it really has that it has achieved its godly purpose to actually bring people to repentance and to be able to seek something different. In many people it has. I do see it, that they are actually really, it's important to them to teach the people what happened and then to do something about it and to make sure that these things don't happen again. But I think for the general public, it's just something that it's too weighty for them. They would rather spend their free evenings in the mountains or doing, fun things. They don't try to get into all the political aspects of it. It's just, I think it feels more like a burden to most people.
Has there been a rise in anti-Semitism in Germany?
I believe there has, but then again, I also feel or sense, and please don't take this for, absolute truth, because I really don't know the facts, but from my general, what I can kind of hear and see, it seems to me that anti-Semitism is really coming more from those people who have flooded the land in the last decade or two than actually from the German people.
Now, you were recently in Israel for the CFI's 40th anniversary. Tell us about that.
That was a wonderful week. I was really, really happy that our children were able to join us. And at the beginning, they were kind of weary and also a little bit scared. Will we be safe? Will anything happen to us or whatever? But we got there and we just really enjoyed our time. And then we actually also took a trip down to the Gaza border and to the Nova Festival site. And to them, that was just eye-opening, and it was a milestone. And they said, now we can tell our friends that we have actually been here and that we have seen what really happened. And we can tell them what we've seen. And no one can take that away from them. And it made them just so much more secure in their faith and even in their faith, not only in their knowledge about the things happening in Israel, but also in their faith. And so for us, we really, really loved the time, just also seeing the other people and feeling more of a team, more of a family, even if we're spread all around the world. Yeah, I love those times to come together. It's really, really good.
Now, a lot of young people were killed at the Nova Festival. So how did you respond, and how did your kids respond to that, to see so many young people who were killed and kidnapped?
Well, it was obviously it was shocking. And I think it was obviously you're just sad. It's so, for me personally, it's just also very, very, it's traumatic, even though I wasn't there, even though I didn't lose anyone close to me. But just, I think I have a very vivid imagination, and just hearing some of the stories of what happened, it's very shocking, very disturbing, but also just so sad, so saddening to know that the people have to deal with the fallout of all of this. And also just how how evil can be. But I think the one thing that really impressed them the most is when we were talking to some of the soldiers at Nahal Oz, at the military base, speaking to people who were kind of close their age, who are just so determined and so willing to defend their nation and to fight for what they believed in. I think we don't have that in Germany because at the moment we don't have military service that is mandatory. So people are very, very removed from what does it mean to defend your land? What does it mean to fight for something that you believe in? It's not necessary to do that here, right? And to see people who are faced with that challenge and who rise up to that challenge, I think that was incredibly, it moved them. I think it really impressed them.
Why do you do what you do?
Well, I feel like I've been called to it. At the beginning when we were asked if we would like to take the leadership, we were really young. We didn't know a lot about anything. We had no connections with anyone in Israel. We just basically took over the work from the guy that was doing it before us. But we both felt a very strong peace from the Lord and a joy in doing this. And so we said yes to it. And God has just been so faithful. And we've just been growing in this whole topic of Israel. And every time, even when I do the bookkeeping or any part of the job, I love it. It's like I'm so thankful that we have this opportunity to bless God's people and to somehow make a difference. I just feel extremely privileged to be able to do this work. And the Lord has really been able to use different gifts and talents that He's put into us in this line of work. If it's music, my husband does a lot of graphics design and website building, things that we're good at, the Lord has been able to use in this ministry. And it's just been a huge blessing for us to be able to live off of donations for all these years. It's just been an amazing testimony to God's faithfulness.
What is your prayer for the Jewish people of Germany?
For the Jewish people of Germany, my prayer is that they would have friends here. I think ultimately my prayer for them would be that they would find their way back home. On the other hand, I know how enriching it is to have them here in Germany. But if Germany doesn't change and doesn't come to a place of repentance and transformation, we don't deserve them here, really, But I would hate to see them them being driven out of their homes or whatever. If I would pray that it would be a call of God in their hearts to come home to Israel. But I would love to see us as Christians and Jews to just coming together much more strongly, and for us to learn from each other and support each other. So as long as God has them here and has called them to be here, my prayer is that He would just, protect them from all sides, give them courage like a lion, and and just really surround them with Christian friends so that we can learn from one another and help each other.
What's your website for people who'd like to know more about the work that you do?
The website for the German office is www.cfri.de. That's where they can find all the information. It'll be in German, but that's for anyone who is interested and can speak the language.
Well, Amber, thank you very much for sharing today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for the interview. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by His mighty power in the Holy Land and bring His peace.